Welcome to another episode of Woman Wiser. I'm your host, Sikin, and today we're exploring how wisdom lives in our bodies, our choices, and the way movement and fitness evolve through midlife. If movement is part of your life, you may have noticed that your body is asking for something different than it did 5 years ago or even 5 months ago. For many women, midlife brings a kind of reckoning. Movement feels different, recovery takes longer, and the metrics we once measured ourselves by start to feel irrelevant. But beneath the frustration, there's something powerful, an invitation to rewrite how we define strength, wellness, and worth. Ashley and I met teaching almost 10 years ago. Today, we're reflecting on what has changed personally, physically, and philosophically, and how we can shape more inclusive, honest spaces for collective movement as we continue to evolve.
The big realization that I had from when we first started chatting until now was that almost all of my clients in the yoga and Pilates world are women who are around, 30 to 50. And a lot of them have been clients for 15 years.
Wow.
And so we've gone through these big life stages together, whether it's been pregnancies or miscarriages and marriages, travel, changes in work, COVID. And now we're all kind of transferring into perimenopause and menopause together. And it's just as slippery as all of the other big changes were. But it's also a neat place to anchor and learn and work together and educate.
What an amazing tribe of humans to be able to go through all of those changes with as well. All of these clients that you've watched transform through the years.
Yeah.
And so what are some of the conversations you're having with them about this time of life?
The big one, last week I teach at Yoga Space in Toronto, and we have a deck, like a big, beautiful deck outside. And only, usually in the fall on a perfect day where it's a little bit warm, we go out and I teach my classes. It's always a surprise on the deck. And this one woman looked like she wanted to punch me in the face. She was like, "Don't you dare. I'm so hot. It's so hot. I'm so sweaty. I can't do this outside in the sun." And then another woman had suggested to her some supplements she could take. And then this whole conversation kind of boiled over, no pun intended, about what to do when the things that you used to do so easily are now hard because you're slipping and sliding and sweating and exhausted and your brain is foggy. So it's like just showing up like that all over the place.
Yeah. And with the movement part of it, I think it kind of hits us like we don't expect it to feel that way because it's one day you feel one way and another day you feel something else. When you were saying that, I was picturing the classes and the people in the classes because we taught in hot studios. No wonder there weren't more women after the age of 40. There were definitely some, but there were not a lot who were coming into those hot rooms.
We didn't know what we didn't know. I think of, how I taught when I was 25. We taught together. We were so wild and fun and creative and free and vibrant. And we had no clue what it might be like for a postpartum woman to take a power vinyasa class in the heat, or for a woman who's just going through menopause to take a class like that. And now, your podcast is Woman Wiser. I feel like I'm a wiser woman and a much wiser teacher than I was 20 years ago because of the experiences that I've been through myself. And I hope that when I'm 70 and 80 and 90, I can still sit at the front of the room like some of my really beautiful teachers and hold space for people at those later stages in their life because I've been there too.
Now that we're wiser to the things that we know are coming and also to the really drastic shifts, and we're talking about a wellness rewrite, and it really was through these later stages of years how both of us have had to make these really intentional changes and shifts in the way that we move or the way that we look at our yoga practice.
Yeah. I mean, my body, my temple has come out the other end. So I turned 40 in December, Christmas Day. We're both Capricorns. And, things are starting to creep up in my own body that are really shaking me down. They're shaking me down and they're humbling me in a way that the invincible movement teacher of Ashley never thought would be possible. I have so many things wrong, and wrong might be not the right word. So many things going on in my knees and my ankles.
Mhm.
And I even got an MRI about 2 weeks
Wow.
ago, and the results came back, and I have early arthritis in both of my knees.
Wow.
And so, two things have happened with that. The first thing was that I need to, you know, do more strength training, take some supplements to support my joint health.
Mhm.
So, B12 and vitamin D is a big one, iron. Um, and see regular osteopaths and physios. But one of the
Mhm.
things that really shocked me was when my nurse told me I should do yoga, and she didn't know I was a yoga teacher. And that maybe it was 20 years of doing a lot of yoga that really created these issues in and around my knee joint. And so I think my job as a yoga teacher, because people who are in my shoes, 40-year-old women who have joint pain, are going and getting MRIs. They're going to come back with tendinosis or whatever it might be in their knee joint. And then they're going to be told to do yoga. And they're
Mhm.
going to show up at a hot power vinyasa class, and their knees are going to buckle and they're going to destroy themselves. And
Yeah.
so my job as a teacher, an old wise teacher now, is
Mhm.
to really create space and, like, not a platform, but a voice for women who are going through these physical changes that come as a shock for most of them.
Mhm.
And then they end up feeling more strain and more pain later. Yoga has been my lifeline my whole life. I'll never stop
Mhm.
doing movement practices, and neither will my clients, but there are ways to do it that are going to cause less pain than doing it in a way that can cause more pain.
Yeah. What you're talking about is this idea of collective, making sure people are there being kind to themselves, that they're informed, that they
Yeah.
have this sense of body wisdom. Being a teacher goes beyond just translating a class or translating movement. It is about something so much bigger. You, like what you're doing, is bigger than just one person. It's bigger than just movement.
100. My cousin is staying with me, and she said, when I was talking to her about what we're going to discuss this afternoon, she's 38, and she said, "Well, I'll never forget that class you took me to." And this is a teacher named BB. She teaches at Yoga Space as well. She's phenomenal. And she sits at the front of her mat and leads a 20-minute shavasana for the
Yes.
first 20 minutes of class. And she teaches a lot of spirituality. She brings her CD player and plays her CDs, and it's a lot of
Mhm.
traditional music. And it's like, we're going to do triangle pose. We're going to try the downward dog, and we'll do bridge pose and maybe 2 or 3 more poses. And that's the practice.
Mhm.
And it's enough. She calls it flow yoga. And it's so polar opposite to what vinyasa flow is. But her
Mhm.
classes are packed, and they have been for years, because she is teaching to this audience of women who don't have a safe space in the yoga world to go and be in aging bodies.
Yeah. BB's classes are
Yeah.
legendary.
Yeah. Things like, I know in
Mhm.
my own life, finding yoga was this place in university that canceled out all the noise. Like my noise canceling
Right.
headphones. That's what yoga was for me. It was my
Mhm.
noise canceling headphones when the world was
Yeah.
really loud and busy and stressful. And it never needed to be complicated and fast and wild and creative in terms of sequencing. It just needed to be a place where I could go and feel safe to, you know, be in my body and
Mhm.
breathe and calm my mind down. And
Yeah.
so I feel like I'm coming full circle back to
Mhm.
that, back to where yoga first found me and what I found
Mhm.
it for.
There was a time where moving my body probably 3 years ago felt very confronting. And moving my body
Mm,
specifically in a yoga practice felt very confronting because of things that I was that were going on with my health and fertility and hormones. It caused me to go back to that still place, but for a little while, it caused me to back off entirely.
100%. Yeah.
And there was this fear of like feeling myself through the practice because that's what yoga has always been for me. It's been a
Hmm.
conduit to really like opening up my heart and my soul and my clarity. And the movement was the conduit to everything. And I want to say, probably in the last 2 or 3 years, I worked with a coach through a whole chakra program. And it allowed me to really come back to that as my yoga practice. So
So
while the
cool.
physical practice is still exists, it's not the rigid structured thing that it used to be.
Mhm.
What I realized is that, like, yoga is in me. Yoga is in my mind.
Mhm.
Yoga is in my heart. And when
Mhm.
I sit in the morning with chants and vibration and meditation and just me in my mind, that to me is the yoga that I have always
Yeah.
needed. And that is the yoga that, regardless of anything else going on, is the place that I come to. That's home.
Yeah. I don't think I ever did yoga to get fit once in my whole life. Do you remember at Harborfront when it was Chopra Yoga? You taught there, right?
I did. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this was a long time ago. So Chopra Yoga had rules for the teachers, and each week every teacher had to speak to a different, I think it was one of the yamas and the
The yamas and
niyamas.
niyamas. Yeah.
Yeah. And so every class, if you went to 10 classes that week, maybe every single class would talk about detachment. And so the philosophy was like deeply embedded and woven into the physical practice. I don't remember the physical practices I taught. I don't remember the physical practices I took. I remember the messages. I remember the philosophy and the lessons about detachment and ahimsa and all of these different aspects of yoga. That was what brought me there. And I feel like as I get older and my body softens into this aging process, rather than trying to fight it and stop it and resist it, I'm
Mhm.
actually leaning into it and leaning
Mhm.
into the softer elements and the more philosophical elements of yoga. And then working with a strength trainer to build the
Yes.
muscle in my body around my aching joints. And it's a different model. It's not a model that I would have ever acknowledged I'd done in the past, but it's how I'm working with my body now.
And I think it's so important, something you said before about alignment.
Mhm.
And this was really interesting for me as a yoga teacher, someone who had done personal training courses and had done a lot of mobility and movement, then going into working with a personal trainer and getting realigned. I teach
Mhm.
alignment in this one container, and then this
Yeah, big
other
time.
container where the movement is different, where there's resistance and load. There are nuances for the alignment. And so I love that because it humbled my perspective as well
Yeah.
and reminded me that these things, although they translate like movement translates, but then going into the strength training space with a different perspective really, really helped my joints, which were hypermobile.
Yeah.
And
This
as
is
a figure
this is
skater,
literally me today.
hmm
Yeah.
yeah.
Today
So
with
yeah,
my
you're,
trainer, he said that to me. His name is Dustin. He teaches in our neighborhood and he works with so many women at my son's school. It's like all the moms go and see him. We turn 40, we just go and see him. Um, but he's trying to lead me into these places where I'm holding weights that are more than the 2-pound weights I use when I teach Pilates. We're
hmm
talking like 15, 25 pounds. And we're, having a good conversation about alignment in yoga versus Pilates versus strength training. And I'm saying,
hmm
but I've never done it like this. I'm not supposed to do it like this. So it's this like relearning how to be in my body. But I think it's
hmm
really important. And I wish I had have seen it earlier in my movement practice. Likewise with Pilates. I wish I had have practiced
hmm
Pilates the same day I first practiced yoga and used those both instead of just leaning on yoga for everything. One of my favorite modules to teach, we've called it the escape room of yoga. And
Oh,
we try to teach our
juicy.
teachers. I know it's juicy. We teach our teachers, you sit at the front of the yoga class. You say, does anyone have anything going on you want to talk about? If that's part of your teaching method. And then you get 5 hands go up. And now all of a sudden
hmm
you've got a side joint pain, sciatica, someone who's 3 weeks postpartum, someone who had an amputee, and someone who has arthritis. And so now here's the escape room of yoga. Like, what are you going to do? How do you
hmm
get through this class? How do you get to the other end of the class with all these different dynamic things going on in your people's bodies and build that sequence
Yeah.
that is powerful, impactful, and safe for them? And so we're
Brilliant.
training teachers to do this, but imagine how do you do that on yourself even? Like I feel like we should all just write our own little escape room of movement. Ashley Dyment, knee pain, shoulder pain, XYZ, and then we
hmm
build our own sequences. Maybe this will be
Yeah.
our app development. We can
I
create this.
think
This is a good
I love
idea.
that. This is amazing. I know. I think that's absolutely brilliant because you're also helping the entire community of yogis to say, like, hey, we see you.
Yeah. It's every person looks different. I've had students take Warrior 2. Their feet are 2 feet apart. Their arms are bent out to the side. It looks nothing like Warrior 2, but that person's body, and this was a 70-year-old man, it cannot safely go into Warrior 2 based on everything
Right.
I know about what's going on with their body, based on them almost falling over in class trying to
Mhm.
go into Warrior 2. So their
Mhm.
Warrior 2 just looks different. But you know what? They're still building strength in their legs. They're still balancing. They're still
Yep.
connecting to breath. And that's enough for me.
So then if you loop back to like where you started, which is this conversation with these women on your deck, and one of them's overheating and sweating, and the rest of them are like, here are the supplements, here are the exercises, here are the like hacks. That's also very overwhelming for someone to hear,
Hmm.
right? Which thing do I choose? How do you navigate that conversation?
Totally, totally. Well, in that specific case, she was a regular student, and after class, I took a moment and I went to her and I said, "Okay, so what's going on?" And it was like, hands in
Yeah.
the air. And I gave her space to like explore and converse. And it's sometimes just talking about it, about what's changing in your body is really important. And then as her teacher, my job isn't to fix her. It's hardly
Yeah.
even to listen, it's to teach her poses and then remind her, and this is what I did. You're not alone. I'm seeing this consistently across the board. You need to find out what works with your body right now and what doesn't. And if you're up all night with insomnia and night sweats
Yeah.
and your brain is fuzzy and you used to practice 5 days a week, maybe you don't practice 5 days a week anymore, but you like it's a time. I love these kind of like pinnacle moments in life where we get a shakeup and
Hmm.
we get a chance to reflect and look at ourselves from the outside in. And I think that, hormonal changes have that happen. I listened to your previous podcast about grief, which was beautiful. Grief and loss creates that space for us to kind of step outside of ourselves and look at
Hmm.
ourselves a bit more critically and softly. And that's where we're at, is I think what women need to do if we're going through changes in our body and whether they're hormonally related or not. I mean, the likelihood of us actually knowing that something is perimenopause is even low unless we're
Is
going
low.
and getting
Yeah.
our blood tested at different points in our cycle, like you had mentioned. So, whatever's going on, just be tender with yourself and be
Hmm.
kind and don't try to prove anything. I always say, don't let your ego make decisions for your body that your body can't handle.
Mic drop. So much of this is very much about the ego, though, right? Because we see
Mhm.
ourselves changing. And then there's so much noise about, on one hand, it's this is the time to slow down. On another hand, it's this isn't a slowdown, it's a rewrite, it's a
Yeah.
shakeup. You can power through. And I want to believe all of those things can be true at the same time. You can slow down and you can still move well. Some people, their body might just be set up differently, their hormones might just behave differently.
Mhm.
I know people who haven't noticed menopause in their bodies.
Totally.
And then I know people who have felt like it took them out and they felt disempowered by it. And so
Mhm.
we all have to find our sweet spot. How should I be moving now to preserve my
Yeah,
body's function so I can continue building and moving well later? And it sounds like that's what you're doing as well. I'm
totally.
meeting myself where I am today so that I can be prepared for tomorrow.
Yeah. I mean, I have two little boys. They're 8 and
Yeah,
5. I have such big dreams to like hike the biggest mountains on the planet with them
I love
and
that.
travel all over the world. And my 8-year-old's in cross country right now and I'm volunteering at the schools. 2 days a week I'm running 3K. We did hills and I probably shouldn't be, but I am. This is another piece with a lot of our clients, especially runners and diehard yogis. They might just never stop, even if there's pain. So it might look more like a knee brace and Advil than it is like a whole functional movement shift away from yoga
Mm,
or running into strength training and slow meditation
yeah.
practices. And that's okay too. That's okay too. We get to make these choices
Yeah.
and live with the consequences of our choices. So I choose to run that 3K with my son, even though I know that I'm going to have to come home and put my ice pack and then my heat pad on my knees. But it's so pivotal to what I believe in terms of keeping our bodies active, being outside, participating in my community and my kids' school, that I'll do it anyway.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know? So
We have a choice, and someone else's life and someone else's choice and the way that they're moving, a recovery might look different. This is a time where we really have to listen to ourselves
yeah.
and advocate for as much as we can to help ourselves and to learn and educate
Mhm.
ourselves about what's going on here.
Yeah. I did have one friend, my like close little squad of mom friends are
Yeah.
anywhere between like 39 and 45.
Mhm.
And when perimenopausal symptoms started showing up in the group and everyone was
Mhm.
noticing some similarities, I said, well, my naturopath told me that I should take this and start eating more of this and this. And
Mhm.
this one woman, she looked at me and she was just like, no, fuck that. Like, we have spent so much of our life taking care of ourselves, taking care of our kids. Like, not fair. No, I don't want to have to do the research, do the work, change my diet, learn new recipes. Like, no, I'm not doing it. And it was also an interesting
Interesting.
kind of like revolt against the woman's work that comes with hormonal changes in your 40s. Like, no,
Mhm.
you've worked hard your whole life, you've done so much, and now you want me to like relearn my body. And so she's just saying hard no. And that's okay too. And I think that's the
100%.
really important part about having these conversations, like whether it's with your female friends, the people at your yoga studio, your colleagues, people on online forums, listening to podcasts like this. Like every woman I talk to has a different perspective and a different approach,
Mhm.
which is cool, which is really
Yeah.
cool.
If you want to know more about your
Mhm.
body, if you
Yeah.
care about movement and care about that knowledge, I'm someone who wants to know. Movement is
We
important to me.
live this. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm called to action. If you're
Mhm.
not called to action, you have to do what's
Totally.
right for you. So what is the rewrite?
I think the model of movement where a teacher barks orders at the front of the room and
Mm,
everybody follows in unison is a product of the past.
mhm.
I don't think that that is working anymore. And I really, when I go to classes, I look for teachers, my teachers, who say, you do what you need to do. We used to isolate and like critique the person in the back row. There's always funny Instagram memes about it. I'm too old for TikTok. I'm sure they're there too. But where people tease the movement teacher who goes to the class and they're at the back and they're doing their own thing. And it's like, oh, how
Okay.
disruptive. And I'm of the opinion, like very, very wholeheartedly, that I want my students to come and do their own thing. Like, if you
Mhm.
know your body, if you're in that deep listening phase of your life, and you know that these 6 poses that I'm about to flow you through will cause pain, damn right, lay down on your back and take 30 conscious breaths instead. It
Yeah.
doesn't bother me at all. And so, part of what I believe the wellness rewrite needs to be is creating a space for people to play in their own bodies. So, that is, as I'm
Mhm.
starting to rewrite the way that I teach wellness, it's looking more like that. And I'm really pushing my students like, get out of the yoga studio and go see a trainer,
Mhm.
physical therapy, get an osteopath's hands on your body. Like, try to work through things in a way that's different because your body needs dynamic movement.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And you teach you were teaching an osteo yoga for a little while there.
Yes, that was cool. I would put my students into restorative yoga poses. So we'd prop them up a lot. And my osteopath, who's been on mat leave for a year, and I have
Mhm.
missed her so desperately, but I'm so happy for her, Alicia Grant, she would come and she would work osteopathic adjustments on
Mm.
students' bodies while they were in their restorative poses. And so in the yoga class, we start with a guided meditation, we start with breath work. Their nervous systems, their bodies, they're here, they're anchored, they're grounded. We can label it, they're ready to receive treatment.
Mhm.
And then the treatment is really functional and really slow. And I kept the groups to really small, 8 people, so everyone would have a chance to feel her work throughout the class. It was so cool. It
Beautiful.
was so special. Yeah.
That's
And we're
amazing.
going to do it again in January once she's back up and running.
Okay. Well, we need a retreat here in San Francisco with osteo yoga.
That would be
I
nice.
actually have a place on my radar. We can Capricorn about it later.
Okay. I like this. I like this. I haven't been to San Francisco in a long time, so it would be a nice homecoming to come to San Francisco with you there.
The West Coast is waiting for you. There's a mindset rewrite as well. Movement and movement mindset going from corrective to adaptive. And when we do something, it's not just about us, but we are connected to everybody and everything around us. And so our words have power, how we move and how we show up that way has power. And we have the power to help people
Yeah.
see themselves in movement and see them in movement. And yeah.
It doesn't take much. Like, we could talk for hours and make it really complicated, but movement can be really simple. And I
Hopefully this
probably
is
won't let you balance on me in saddle pose while you're in Bakasana ever
My
again.
goodness. You did not disclose your pregnancy to me that time. And that was time one of two, I think. Like before that, we went to a capoeira class together and
Oh
you
my
allowed
goodness,
me
I
to kick
forgot.
you.
I didn't realize that it was really serious, like Brazilian fighting that we were taking. My goodness. You know what? He
I
turned out okay. My son
shook.
turned out okay.
Yeah. So that and then balancing on you during that photo shoot or whatever we were doing that day. We'll post the photo because I think it's
It was bananas. Like the things, if I knew then what I knew now, things I wouldn't have done. And that photo is like the photo for that caption.
we had only known each other for a little while, but there was just this trust in this moment where you were like, yep, I can do this. I know you can do this.
Wild. Well, you were strong. Like I remember when I first met you, you were one of the first yogis that I met who was strong, like had muscular definition and understood strength. And we were all just these like limber, flexible yogis gallivanting around through our vinyasas. And so there was a level of trust because I think I saw you as like a real teacher of the human body. And we were young. I mean, how old were we? 20? 20? 25?
No,
I don't know.
it was
How old
definitely
were we?
30, maybe
Yeah.
31. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, 30. We would have
Long
been
time
30.
ago.
Still feels like forever ago. Happy
Yeah.
10-year anniversary of knowing each
I
other almost.
know. And this conversation is one we're going to have to continue as you go through these new cycles of, movement and learning. And I'm also diving into some interesting things with perimenopause
Mhm.
and what is it and why does it feel
Mhm.
this way? I think it'll be really interesting to come back, in a few months and revisit this conversation and see if anything has changed in our perspective or how it's evolved.
Totally. Totally.
So
Because
we
I'm
have to do
just
this
I'm
again.
just scratching the surface here, and
And we all are.
there's so much to learn.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad we did this. Thank you for being here. I'm excited for people to hear and hopefully add perspective about where they have been as well, like, or what other yoga teachers or movement teachers are experiencing as well in their own practice and in their own bodies. So, yeah, if you're
Look
listening,
forward to the comment section.
yeah, drop it in the comments.
Yeah.
Amazing. Always check in with a health professional for your midlife wellness. To practice yoga with Ashley, head to the show notes where you'll find a link to her Instagram and offerings. Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to hit follow wherever you listen to podcasts to catch a new episode of Woman Wiser every Sunday. And remember, real power isn't loud, it's lived.